Hey y'all, welcome to another tutorial with Sublime Swell. Today I'm going to be looking at an old school retro MMO called PaintballNet. It's a really interesting game. It's from 1996. It ran from 1996 to 2000. And I think I played this when I was about 15 years old, and it was like the big MMO, where everybody was buying different gear and modifying their guns and having these huge battles. So it's going to be re-released, and I wanted to just show you kind of the ins and outs because it's especially for, I'm going to sound like an old man, but young folks these days, they have trouble appreciating it, and it's because they really don't know what's going on when they're logging in. You go to paintballnet.net, you create an account, it's completely free. The entire game is completely free. All the equipment you just grind for. You unlock different features like, for example, the ability to carry more weight on your character, etc. All of it, you do it by grinding. So let's log in. I want to get straight into the game here. So I'm going to log into the beginner server. You just, type in your information. We want to start in the beginner server. Now, this is the interface. So you have the graphical interface is for your battles. It's where the fighting happens, okay? Like I'm going to fire my gun there a few times, okay? And the textural interface is where your maintenance happens for your character. So for example, I'm going to click on the stat button down here, and it's going to show me the details of my character. So I have a soft kitchen rag on my neck, a small backpack on my left shoulder, a Tommy Hilfiger bubble jacket on my body, and it has a woodland camouflage kit on it, a stolen third world paintball gun with an expansion kit for the hopper on my right hand, and etc. More items, right? So the first thing new players think when they come in here is, oh god, the controls are really laggy. It takes forever for my character to move. It takes forever for my gun to fire. It's so slow. And so they think it's just an old game, like an Atari sort of game. But that's not really the case. What happens is you start out with beginner equipment. And in this game, it's actually a lot more complex than it seems. There's different values for terrain movement. So the terrain that you're on matters when you're in a battle. So if you're on grassland, that's the fastest terrain. You're going to move around really fast, or faster, depending on what kind of footwear you have. The grass is really fast. The woodland is slower. The sand is slow. The desert is slow. And the worst is the water. So people will complain, I got into the water and I couldn't move. It's because it's really slow. It takes longer to move from square to square. So there's that element, there's this, and this affects the tactics when you're in the battle of how you play. There's some players that like to play exclusively in water, for instance. They get flippers. You can buy a pair of flippers, and you can move really fast in water, and so people will do that. And it gives you advantages over players that are just playing on land. You can stay away from them and things like that, and they can't see you as well. So there's that. There's also camouflage equipment. Now, if I hit start, or stat, sorry, I have that bubble jacket. Now, I renamed that. You can rename equipment, which is pretty fun, to whatever you want, really. And so this just happens to be a Tommy Hilfiger bubble jacket, but it's actually a padded jacket, which allows you to get bounces from paintballs. But anyways, there's camouflage. So for example, you start with a woodland jacket as your beginner jacket, and it gives you better camouflage in woodland terrain. So in the jungle and in the bushes, which is just woods. There's woods and jungle. The jungle is a thicker brush. So there's that. But there's also camouflage jackets that give you greater camouflage, concealment in the grasslands or in mountains, etc., etc. The same goes for shoes. There are different types of shoes that make you go faster across different types of terrain. So that's important to keep in mind. You start with some basic stuff. All you have to do to check what you have is the stat button. There's a default stat button. And you can just press it and it'll show you everything you're wearing. It'll show you the weight of the things you're wearing. So it says here I'm carrying 62 out of 100. The game has a weight dynamic. So if you go and buy items, for instance, this small backpack weighs 3 pounds. This can of spray paint weighs 1 pound. If I go over here to the gun shop, There's this semi-automatic paintball rifle, and that weighs 20 pounds. So there's all these weight dynamics that affect the way you play your character and how it evolves. Now, I've already bought 2 weight expansions. They cost $2,500 a piece in in-game money, which you win by playing battles and winning battles. I'm carrying now, I have 62 out of 100. So you start with, I believe, 50 is your weight. So these are all the things, and there's also a line of sight in the game. So let's say a player is 10 spaces out from me or 8 spaces out. I might not see him. I can only see a certain number of spaces out. So there's line of sight. There are kits and equipment that help you see further. There are some pieces of equipment that help you see through woods or through difficult terrain, because in the woods you don't see players until they're right on top of you, almost until they're right next to you. So it makes it really difficult to kill players in that terrain. So I'm trying to think of what else. Yeah, there's the terrain features, there's camouflage, there's line of sight, and then there's the weapons themselves. There's so many pieces of equipment and items in this game that's what makes it really fun, is you can really customize your character and your play style. There are paint grenades. There's just your regular guns. There are different types of paint that go faster across the map. So if you look at the way I'm shooting my gun, the paintball takes a while to get there. Well, there's high velocity paint that goes really fast, and there's also no bounce paint, which will never take a bounce when you shoot a player that has padded equipment like me. So you'll see when you're playing, you'll shoot people and it'll say bam, bam, and it'll bounce off. Well, you get no bounce paint. You can get that later. And there's a ton of weapons. There's paintball Uzis, grenade launchers. The grenades are really cool because you can actually throw grenades over terrain. So if you're not inside of a woods, but you're just on the grassland outside, you can throw it like 3 spaces into the woods, and it'll cover a great area like a grenade will do, and kill everybody inside of it. So, in fact, I'll buy one here and throw it really quick. So you see that my paintball gun, when it shoots and it hits a square, it just produces one little splat. But let's go buy it's the big paint grenade, by the way. It's the one you want to buy. And I'll swap it between my hands. All weapons have to be in your right hand in order to be fired. Here's my paint grenade. I'm going to throw it. Boom. It covers 9 spaces. So you can see how that will kill players more easily when they're close to you or when you don't know where they went exactly. The only drawback is it's expensive. Paint grenades tend to be that was $15 right there. So it's a game of economy as well. You don't want to spend a lot of money playing the games because you only make a certain amount of money when you win games. So yeah, lots of different weapons. There's mines. I mean, there's proximity mines. It's wild. It's wild. There's jetpacks to make you move super fast. There's infrared kits to see players through certain terrains. There's an X-ray goggles kit. It's just really imaginative and sort of maybe science fiction sort of paintball play. And really fun, really fun. It's a pretty chill game too. It's not like a game where you need super fast reactions. I mean, you do for some of the battles, depending on the way you play, but it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. The grind isn't bad. It's very straightforward, and it doesn't take 9 years to get decent equipment. I've only been playing like a couple of days, and maybe, I don't know, in total of 4 hours of play, I've gotten the 2 weight unlocks, which is $5,000 in cash. And I've gotten some equipment. You start out with a decent amount of equipment, decent amount of money too. I think it's $1,000. You can do some things. When you are, okay, so I've talked about terrain, I've talked about line of sights, all the features of the game, how you move slower and faster depending on the terrain that you're in. The recharge time on the guns is really important because people think that the guns are really slow when you first get them. One important detail about firing your weapon is that you don't want to, this is not one of those games where you want to click a million times because the gun has a recharge time. And so let's say you click 10 times, your character is literally going to sit in the same square and be vulnerable while it's shooting those 10 shots that you registered. So you really want to, you can spread fire, but you want to just click 1, 2, 3 maybe, because you want to be able to move your character. You have to keep dodging paint and dodging other players. dodging close range weapons. There's not only grenades, but there's also something called a spray paint can, which is like a knife, which actually never bounces because it's spray paint. And you can you basically run up to players and you place a target sign on them. I'll show you how that works later. Anyways, it's like a knife. You just run up to players and kill them. But yeah, so don't overclick. Don't overclick when you're moving. All you got to do is, for example, if I want to go here all the way to the right, just click, player will move there. Click up, it'll go there. Just click once, just one click. I know it'll happen while you're fighting that you click a lot, but and sometimes you want to have micro control and only move one space so that you can really react quickly. But in general, don't overclick when you're firing. It's not a good idea. So let's see. Basic equipment when you start. Well, some basic things about the interface. Obviously, these are the characters. You can see other players here. In order to look at other players, all you got to do is go into the same square as them, and then you can either configure a button down here. These are all customizable buttons. They're kind of like macros where you can input the commands you want. I've got it set up this way, but the command is /look. So we're gonna look at this guy called the man. And apparently the man only has a free paintball gun on his right hand. Don't ever use a free paintball gun. It's the worst gun. It's super slow, and the paint is super slow. It takes like 5 years to get to the target. But it is free. So the free paintball gun. I suppose you could use it with friends if they're letting you kill them, like power leveling, which is what people do a lot to get some money. Let's see if this guy's in here. He must have gone to a different store. There he is. Look, poor man Joe. So he's got a padded helmet with an X-ray kit on it and an infrared kit on his head, padded scarf, a large padded backpack with a satellite kit on his right shoulder, a multi-terrain down-filled jacket with a water kit and an interference kit on his body. All this stuff, really cool. So you get the idea. Let's see. So trying to think of other basics that you need to know. Oh. Up top here, you'll see your name, your character name. You'll see the amount of money you have, and you'll see the number of games that you've played. Now, the game limits you to 25 matches per day, but if you have $100, which is really easy to keep on hand, just always keep $100 on hand. All you have to do is type /reset games, and it will reset it to 0. It won't let you reset it until you've actually reached 25. So keep $100 on you. /reset games, plural. That's all one word. /reset games, and it'll reset your games. It's important to know because you can play more than 20. You can play as many games as you want. You just have to have $100 to kind of pay the toll, so to speak. What else? Underneath your character name and your money and your games, there are going to be 2 items. If you have 2 items in your hand, there'll be 2 things listed. The very first one, I just swapped. The very first one is your right hand. So I've got my gun in my right hand right now. I also have a paint can that I like to use, so I'm going to get that out of my backpack. And there it is. I renamed it. It's called a can of vaporized wood glue, but it's a spray paint can, and it's in my left hand. So right hand, left hand, it's a good way to tell what's in your hands, because when you're manipulating objects, you'll need to put things away in your backpack, for example, or take them out, or, assemble, etc. So that's pretty much the basics of the game. I'm going to do a different video on a different topic, which is getting your initial setup and then some basic commands that you need to know and how to customize your buttons. But I want to split it up so that it's not too long. So I'll see you all next time, and look forward to seeing you in the game.